Welcome to the SARE Ladies Podcast, the sister brand of Subtle Asian Real Estate, where our mission is to get more people that look like us participating in the real estate industry. We invite experts to not just talk about real estate, but also about our unique identity as Asian women and the cultural values that shape who we are as investors. I'm Anita Wong.
And I'm Tiffany Lee. We're both real estate agents and investors based in the Bay Area and New York City. Whether you're a seasoned real estate pro or just starting out, there's something for everyone here. So pour yourself a glass of wine or boba tea and join us as we celebrate the achievements and unleash the untapped potential of AAPI women in the real estate industry.
Welcome to the SARE Ladies Podcast.
Now let's get on with the show. But first, a word from one of our fabulous sponsors. What are your goals for the future? Whether it's starting a business, growing your investment portfolio, or securing your financial future, you need a lawyer on your side to protect your interests. With their expert knowledge and years of experience, a lawyer will help you navigate the complex legal landscape and ensure that your interests are protected every step of the way. So why wait? Start planning for your future today and contact the law office of Ronald Rohde. They will help you reach your investment goals. Trust us, your future self will thank you. Now on to the show.
Hey there, Pod Squad, and welcome to a special Galentines Day episode of the SARE Ladies Podcast. I'm your host, Anita Wong, and with me is my co-host, Tiffany Lee. We have a really special treat for you today as we sit down for a double date with our extremely amazing and brilliant friends, Susan No and Gina Shin. Susan and Gina are two API women that, like us, have formed a powerful business. And today on our podcast, we're going to be discussing their friendship, importance of female relationships in real estate, the challenges we face in industry, and how we can support each other in our professional and personal lives. To us, I think it's really necessary in a full discussion to speak publicly about our experiences as AAPI women in real estate and just have a little fun with it too. So without further ado, say hello to the pod, Gina and Susan. So happy to have you both here.
Hey, thanks.
Hi, guys.
Back.
Hey, girls. Yep. So now for those of you that have been on us for some time, if Gina's name sounds familiar at all, it's because she's been on our show before where we had such a fun and crazy discussion about self-advocacy and mental health. We immediately loved Gina and we were like, we had to have Gina back, and then she became besties with Susan, and we're like, okay, both of them have to come back for this Galentine's Day episode. So let me guys refresh everyone's memory about Gina. Gina is a multifamily syndicator, mortgage lender, wife, dog mom of two big doodles, and as a recent change, she has just joined Fractional as their sales strategy manager. She is the founder of Shin Equity Partners, where she currently has $30 million in assets under management. She initially started it to increase her portfolio, but is now using it to focus on her mission to help reduce the wealth gap around the world. She also is the owner of a mortgage brokerage and mortgage processing company where she uses her 10 plus years of experience to help people get into homes. She lives in Orange County and likes woodworking and going to her cabin for fun. And Gina's laughing right now because she remembers our joke from last time where I was like, did you build your cabin from scratch because you're a woodworker? She was like, no. She's like, I bought that with money, no. Tiffany. You idiot. All right. Let's get in. Let's introduce everyone to Susan now. Susan No is the CEO of Spaciouz, that's Spaciouz with a Z at the end, and is a seasoned real estate investor and developer in the Philadelphia area since 2014. Susan started with real estate wholesaling with her husband, Andre, and began building their portfolio of properties using creative financing strategies to acquire residential properties. Eventually, they transitioned into completing ground-up developments, full gut rehab projects to expand their portfolio with multifamily and mixed-use commercial properties. Susan is an immigrant, or as she likes to call it, she's a fob. Is passionate. And is passionate about empowering other women and minority investors in the real estate field. All right, so welcome, Gina and Susan. Let's jump into our first question. So let's start off. How did you two meet each other? And for both of you for both of you guys individually, tell us what was your first impression of each other.
So we were at a multifamily conference, MFIN Con, in Charlotte of last year in June. And there's an app that a lot of conferences use. It's called Hoova. And I'm on this app. You download it before the conference begins and you can start networking with people. And all of a sudden I get this message from Susan, like out of the blue. And she's like, "Hi, I see that you're a real estate investor, like I'm just trying to get women together, like Asian women. I'm trying to like meet up with them, maybe before the event. I'm doing breakfast tomorrow with another lady. I'm trying to get her into our breakfast as well. Like, do you want to come and we can just meet each other before the conference starts?" And I was like, "Okay, sure." Like, I didn't really know what to expect or what to think. And so I was like, "Okay, all right, I'm down." So we met up. And then the other person, she wasn't able to make it. So it ended up being the two of us. So then
Ooh, that's to me cute. How coincident. How convenient. How convenient. I bet there was never a third person, right, Susan?
The way I lure her into.
So yeah, we had breakfast together and we were chatting, and it was really funny because in the beginning, at least I was kind of like not really sure total what the point of it was, other than just to meet each other, right? I was like, is this gonna like go somewhere, or are we just like saying hi, like happy to meet you? We love meeting other women in real estate that are Asian, especially. I was like, I don't really know where this is going, but she seems really nice. And so I was like, let's just keep talking and see what happens. And then she was like, "Oh my God, Korean, you're Korean, I'm Korean." And then I was like, "Oh, my friend is here, and she's also Korean. Let me introduce you." And so we started like, that's when we started kind of like mashing our networks together. That was like the start of it.
That's true. That's true. When I don't know, I that was my first time going to like bigger conference, I guess. So I wanted to just, connect with everyone. I keep seeing, different ladies on there, and I got really excited. And when they're Asian, I got more excited, right? And when I look at GINA SHIN, I was like, I wish the Shin is like Korean Shin, right? I don't know, Chinese Shin, or I don't know. So I asked her, let's meet up, and there was another lady as well. And I ended up meeting her. She's like, she's Korean. And I'm like, you don't really see other fellow Korean lady investor in the real estate world. It's very rare for me, especially me being in the East Coast. I think a lot of people are, and also our age frame, right? A lot of people are older, which is fine, but it's just that I haven't been able to find like a person that looked like me, right? So it was so interesting. And when I first saw her, I just had so many questions. Like, what do you do? Like, I didn't have any information or knowledge about multifamily investing. So it was a fun, talk.
So I remember earlier before the podcast, we got the four of us were joking about all of us seeing each other at a K-Spot together out in Dallas, where we all, the four of us originally met, right? And Susan, if you want to tell the story.
I wasn't there, by the way.
You were texting me, Gina, so you were there in spirit. You're like, "Are you guys at the King Spa right now?" Like, he was like, "Should I come through?"
I was talking to my
And then she's like, "My friend Susan's there, and she says she might have seen you or Anita." And right, Susan, do you remember? And I think like we might have passed and we locked eyes, and I was like, "Okay, that girl just looked at me weird. Did you know me?" And that same day, Anita was like hounding me. She's like, "You're at a K-Spa, you need to get naked." And I'm like, "I'm not gonna get naked." I didn't even know. That was my first K-Spa experience too.
Seriously?
It's shocking to me.
Oh my God.
I made fun of me for being a prude.
Yeah, I did. Knew Tiffany would be such a prude. I only saw you ladies on the profile photos, and I'm like, I don't know if they are the Tiffany and the Anita, right?
Susan 100% saw Anita naked. I promise you.
I don't know. So I was, as being a fob, I was like connecting with a lady in there who's working over there with Ajuma, right? And then I'm talking with her, and I'm talking with her, and then I think Anita came by, and I'm like, as I'm seeing her more, I'm like, I think that's Anita, but I don't want to say hi before I'm not sure, so I was texting Gina, and then Gina texts like Tiffany or something,
Yeah, it was really weird.
It was weird. Everyone's first impression of each other was like half of this group was completely naked. The other half was fully clothed and just texting each other. So there we go. Happy Galentine's Day, everybody.
Korean spas are like the ultimate bonding experience. I mean, you can't get more raw, and you cannot get more just yourself than at a Korean.
For everything, you know.
So just so everyone knows, so Gina and Susan are both Korean. Anita and I are both Anita and Tiffany are both Chinese. So there's that culture. I guess Chinese people are just prudes. I'm a total prude. But Anita's like, nah, I live in the Bay Area, so chill, Chile.
Yeah, I live in Berkeley where people are always naked. Like, no, it's just like nudity is just part of it. Okay. Well, okay. So what was your so Gina? What was your first impression of Susan?
I just thought she was like really friendly and cute.
Oh, that's sweet.
And because like when I go to conferences, you know, I just go there and, you know, first I say hi to a couple people that I know and we just chit chat and whatever. But like, I don't like really go out of my way to be like, hey, I need to meet you. Like, and I was like, wow, that's like a lot of energy. And like, that's pretty cool. And so I was texting my friends too. I was like, wow, this girl, she just like messaged me and asked if we wanted to get breakfast together. And they were like, oh, well, let us know how that goes. Because like for them, I don't think they would have expected that either. And then, you know, we went and then, you know, we finished and they were like, well, how was it? And I was like, I think she's really cute. Like she has like a refreshing personality. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll just keep talking to her and, you know, we'll keep connecting at the conference. And, you know, she wants to meet all these people. So if I see her and I see someone else, I'll, you know, introduce them or whatever. So yeah.
Susan, what was your first impression of Gina when you guys met finally in person?
I don't know. I don't remember. But, you know, I just thought that I was just getting excited to see another Korean investor. And she's so like independent and like, you know, we're kind of in the same age group. So we're like talking different things. So I think it was over the whole, I feel like we've talked almost every day after the first meeting. Like we were just texting on Kakao Talk and we're like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And all these different things. So it was like a relief for me, right? Like, cause I've had this, you know, investing career or the lifetime, because I'm doing it for full time. And there's only so much I can talk with Andre, right? So I for having a friend who's just like supportive of my mindset, the way I think, and understands like the problems that I have with my family and other people in the industry, it was just so amazing. So I don't even remember the first impression, to be honest. I just remember, you know, it's just good. You know, it was like, oh my God, I'm so excited.
That's actually a good segue because as Susan's talking, her husband Andre is just like walking in the background while she's like, I can't talk to him about this stuff, but I can talk to my girlfriend about this stuff, and he's just nonchalantly just like getting stuff in the background. But this is a bonus question, right? Because you said something interesting. So like 75% of this group, this quorum here are married, like to heterosexual men. So what do you
How do you know?
I was just, I know all of you guys independently of this group. Of this gathering. So I would like to like run that. Like Susan makes a great example of like, oh, what are some things you can talk to girlfriends about that you can't talk to your husband about, that makes it a more fulfilling, I guess, relationship, fulfilling business relationship, as far as like achieving your own individual goals. Like what's something that girl power can give you, like a girl friendship can give you, that like maybe your husband's kind of slacking a little bit on? Love them, but there's a cup that only a girl can fill, and that sounds super gay as I say it out loud. Sorry guys. I mean,
I was gonna say first go to Korean spas together.
Yeah, we can. You can only get Korean spas, or they divide you by females and males.
Yeah, but
so that's another thing your husband can't do with you. You can't be butt ass naked at a K spa together. Oh wait, before I even ask that, all right. So we know Susan's first impression of Gina. Susan, what was your first impression of Anita's hot naked body at the K spa?
What? I said to
remember,
Tiffany,
but I don't remember.
don't answer that question.
And you said to me before, and she's like, "Don't. I promise we won't say anything incriminating about each other." And clearly, I'm not following that rule at all. But it's okay. I'm just asking the question. You don't have to answer. I was just being stupid. But yeah, let's go back to the husband question.
So, what I think that women and girlfriends can do for each other that husbands cannot is we connect differently, right? Like on a more emotional level too, right? It's not just metrics and completing certain things and timelines and goals. I mean, it is, right? Because Susan and I are very driven and we're really crazy when we're together. So, but it's not just that too, right? We talk about like therapy, we talk about like mental health, we talk about like, family trauma and how it affects us, right? Like when we have, when we witness each other like doing something where it may be kind of out of the ordinary, we will bring it back at some point. Eventually we'll kind of bring it back to like why we do that as well, to have an understanding, because we want to make sure that we really are clearing tiny hurdles so one day it doesn't just implode on us, right? Like sometimes I feel like with my husband anyway, like little things will happen, all these little microaggressions, and then all of a sudden one day we're like having this crazy fight and we're like, why are we even fighting? So, I mean, like those are things that I think are just easier for us to talk about, especially because like there are certain things in our the way we were raised or cultural things that we can really talk about and we get it. We don't have to like go into detail about like this or that, or also just this is more of just a Susan and I thing, but we're a little like nuts at times. And like I'm here actually. I'm at Susan's house. I hopped on a plane from California on a one-way ticket and I came over here and we're just like hanging out and going to events and networking, and we're just talking. I mean, like we like really getting to know each other. You're spending like every second of the day together. And like some of those things you just can't really get with your husband. I mean, like my husband's my best friend, but like he can't real talk with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it also depends on like personality of your husband, right? I mean, some husbands, I guess, they're more detailed and whatnot, and often I feel like those type of people meet more relaxed wife or whatever. And my husband is, he's Colombian. He's very relaxed, tranquila, like do it tomorrow. It's okay. Everything's gonna be fine. Roof leaking. Okay, we'll get it fixed. So, he's I think it's a very good balance as far as like working together as a couple. But one thing that I really wanted to try out was to work in a setting where the other partner is kind of like, very organized, right? So I don't have like a corporate experience. I don't have an experience in working under like somebody's wing and then working as a team. So, working with Gina and, even in general, working with a lady, partner, it just touches on a lot of different, basics that I don't even need to talk about too. Like, of course, if we're going to work on a project, we're going to work with a project management tool like Gantt chart, right? And I tell her, she understands, okay, and then she comes up with something and I'm like, okay, this is exactly what I was talking about, and that's not going to happen with Andre, like I mean, his strength is somewhere else.
I don't know where it is.
Me down, or like, he just compliments my energy and my, my beat, my pace. So yeah, I think working with different partners really give you different perspectives of approaching the same. It could be a same project, but it could be done differently. Maybe the results and conclusions are the same, but it's really interesting. Interesting experience.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Anita, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand. Like my husband has a military background, so he's very like everything is like to the T. I think about the opposite of that relationship. I don't know, it's kind of a spectrum because like I'm the operations minded person between me and Tiffany, but he is the operations person to me, and so it's also like always feels like kind of a scale. But I have a lot of like learning lessons from my husband who does it. I think what I admire about him is that like he is very matter of fact with with business. It's just like he can go to sleep like what like he before he goes to sleep he watches all of our numbers every like all of our finances like all like how much website track like I was just like how can you do that like how can you go to sleep at night like that and I admire so much of that because like he's very like they're just numbers, but I think with me and Tiffany, it's like more of a rounded, it's like a more, yeah, like a rounded relationship. Like we talk about like, how do we, like help API women? How do we find our identity and how we work? And I love being with other API women because also it just encourages me that I can do the thing, like seeing someone else that looks like me and doing the thing is so much more like encouraging because it just feels like I'm doing it and then helping and then seeing more people that look like me in the industry is just like empowering. Also like working with women is just I mean I can't explain it to a man what that feels like. Like it's just a special experience and that I can't explain. So
I know
yeah.
exactly what you're talking. It's I almost feel like with women collaborating with other women, when the vibe is right, there's no ego. It's just collaboration and brainstorming. I feel like sometimes when I'm sitting in a meeting with men and there's like a mixture, it's not all men. All right, let me just clarify. Not all hashtag not all men, but sometimes they'll like talk over you or they'll I don't know. All right, let's not make this episode about bashing men, but I do want to say that Anita and I do have this thing that I love that we call sanity checks. And it's when things get really overwhelming work-wise for both of us, we'll just clear out like 15-20 minutes in the beginning of the meeting and just like vent to each other about what is and isn't working and just like unload on each other. And then we're like, okay, glad we got that off our chest. Glad that we're both thinking we're on the same page, that this is what's happening in front of us is crazy, right? Like but it's manageable now that we're both on the same page. Like, yeah, the situation is crazy. Let's tackle it together. And I think that's what's beautiful about our girlfriendship, right?
Yeah, I think the biggest strength is to understand that I have to feel like Gina will understand my imperfection, right? But she will still respect me and she will love me and the same, like I think that is like the best part that it might be a little difficult to get if you didn't have that connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It makes it easier to work too. Like I almost feel like I don't have to censor myself around Anita, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the easiest part. Like when you feel like you have to sugarcoat what the thing is, you want to say something gets lost in translation, but it's like because we have a similar upbringing, and I'm sure you guys feel this too as growing up Korean, right? As like Anita and I are both grew up Chinese, but we're both like on different coasts. But the attitudes of our parents and our upbringing that we came up with was very similar. And Anita's mom even said, like, what are the odds that you meet another Chinese girl the same age as you? Both of you even speak Cantonese, and you like meet up at the same brokerage, and then you guys just hit it off right off the bat. Like that's like the stars align perfectly, right? And I was like, yeah. And yesterday we were having like a heart to heart of like merging our businesses together. And I was like, I am so glad that I found you after like 10 years in this industry, just like banging my head against the wall. Sometimes I was like, it feels, it makes me more excited to show up to work knowing that I have Anita to like bounce ideas off of, right? Anita, do you feel the same way?
I heart you. Yes. Okay. But I think too is like there's so many things that are just like you don't need to explain, and I'm sure that you have the same relationship, like being like Korean and brought up in a Korean like background. Like we have just like Asian like Chinese thing just to be like, do you also have like controlling parents that like how does that like affect the way that you make decisions or like the sort of needing to be like needing to be either a doctor or accountant or like those four things and like how does that like affect your business? I think it has there's just so many things that always don't really like I haven't worked out in my own mental health that Tiffany just kind of gets just because she comes from the same Asian background. Do you guys feel the same way?
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's more than just being Korean. We were sharing different things that we just kind of had crazy, like I came here when I was 16, so I was already grown up, right? I was like really Korean, and you would think that we might have a little difference in upbringing, but it's just a lot of parental thing. It's just a lot of common stuff that happened that you wouldn't understand unless that happened to you as a child of an immigrant family.
Yeah, and like layering on top
Wow.
of that, it's children of immigrant families. Like, it's such a unique experience where our parents come from this traditional Eastern culture, but we're the generation that has to mesh in with Westernized culture, and that's a unique like Venn diagram where we're not 100% American, we're also not 100% Asian either, and that's such a weird spot to be in that only somebody else who has done it can understand. Like, oh, here's the weirdness that comes with it. Like, I feel like sometimes I'm a fish out of water if I'm surrounded by only white people and they don't understand when I like, show it, or like I don't want to brag about myself because it feels awkward to me because the way I grew up was like, be humble, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
But in corporate, like, corporate America, it's very individualistic, where we come from a place where it's like, what's the other word that's not individualistic, Anita? It's a collectivism. Is that what it is? Like a collectivist society versus an individualistic society where you like toot your own horn, and collectivist is like, no, it's the group, like just be quiet. And yeah, so it's kind of like that. And also like on the subject of women, we come from a patriarchal society. Like the Asian patriarchy is very different. Like there's white patriarchy too, but it still affects how we show up in our work. And I feel like, we talk about the glass ceiling, but we also have the bamboo ceiling, which there's that intersectionality, right? That's unique to Asian women in the working world and as entrepreneurs. All right, Anita. I think we both,
Yeah, I read that. I feel like we're kind of like fighting things on both ends because like obviously we're fighting the male, like the white dominated industry. I mean, I think real estate has 66% Caucasian people in the real estate professional industry versus like 7% of Asians. And it's like I feel like we're fighting on both ends, right? We're being Asians in a white dominated industry, but also like we're women. We're Asian women in a patriarchal Asian society. And I've been told, like actually been told, like, why are you pursuing real estate? Why don't you just go marry rich? Or or like they're like, why don't you just like why don't you marry earlier? Like you could have married earlier and have to pursue a career like this. And it's just there's just so much defiance on both ends that I think it's like you have to find someone that gets you to understand like your own sanity, like why you're making decisions, And I totally hear you when you were saying like the hurdles you had to go through, like the bragging about yourself thing. I'm still getting over that for sure because I've been like humility has been like to you as in like as a like growing up Asian, you don't talk about yourself. In fact, like your parents like, rail on you growing up. They're like, "Oh, she's stupid, she's fat," and like, you think that's
So true.
pretty much like you're just like, and how can you brag about yourself when you haven't heard any good things about yourself, throughout your entire childhood? Like, I'm still working on like finding what's good about myself and like saying to like during your networking, like, and yeah, the skill.
Right. Like when you go to a network, your pitch is all about why am I great? Why am I fabulous? And why do you need to work with me? Right. And it is very strange. Very strange to say the least. But what I personally have experienced is that I would have been able to do that or get to that point without like my girls in the space. Because I used to struggle with just like that kind of idea, right? And I would talk to my friends and say, basically explain how I feel. And they would look at me and be like, Gina, you're more than adequate. You know, you are a force of nature. You are like a mover and a shaker. Like you are doing all these things already that you're scared to say that you're doing. And it was like many, many conversations before I started to get to a point of acceptance with that. And Susan actually had kind of a similar thing too, where she was investing in real estate for like, I don't know what, 7 years or something like that. And then you finally realized, oh, I'm a real estate investor. Like how is that even possible, right? You're like buying houses left and right. That's like your full-time job. And you finally get to the point where you're like, oh, that's weird. I'm an investor. Like I can go out and tell myself I'm a real estate investor. And I think it has to do with the narrative that society really puts on us, right? We're not normal, right? Right. The statistics that you said, Anita, right? That just applies to being Asian in real estate. But then if you break that down, Asian woman in real estate, I mean, that is even crazier. I mean, there's a, I mentioned it on our last podcast, right? Where you go to a conference and then all of a sudden you see all the Asian women just kind of congregate together.
Forming a beehive together, an Asian beehive.
Right.
And like,
queen bees.
There's a reason for that, right? You know, there's not enough representation. We don't see people that look like ourselves. We don't get to we don't hear enough that like people that look like us are doing great things and that we are great and that we have so much to bring to the table, right? It's not about marrying rich. It's about how do I get rich, right? Like Susan and I, we kind of have this mindset, we're very strong women and we're not afraid to be the ones that are kind of driving the financial boat in our families. And that's just, it's not as normal. It's not something that you see or hear. People kind of, like my husband will literally be like, I want to be a house husband. And people will laugh because they think it's hilarious, but it's actually true. I mean, maybe it is funny, but like, that is really what he wants to do. Like he wants to be at home and clean the house and walk the dogs and make food. And like, he would be very happy doing that. Like, he doesn't need to work. He doesn't need to be making more money than me. Like, he doesn't need to like do all these things. He just wants to support me and make sure that I'm happy and healthy and doing what I love.
Yeah.
Well,
when I first started real estate back in, with the wholesaling in 2014 or something, I just got out of college. So telling that to my mom or other family members, it was so difficult. Like just the real estate in Korea, it was perceived as like a fraud kind of in general, some people, because there's so much, so many things going on, so many frauds that happened before. So people don't understand when I say I wholesale property, like let alone buy the property and fix it up and sell it. They're like, there's something fishy about it. I'm like, there's nothing. And then me trying to explain to my mom that, marrying or dating a Colombian guy, on top of that, I'm doing real estate with him. It was just, it was sad because I was still growing up. I was in the, early 20s. I needed advices. I needed, guidance, but there was nobody really. Because, it's also, I understand my mom's perspective as well. But I had a little sister that I had to take care of. And then my mom was kind of like another sister that I had to kind of like, okay, it's sad that you don't have the right mindset or the same mindset, but I still need to do this because I need to, I need to make money, but I can't work on like 5 different jobs, which I really had at the time. And then, for me, I kind of try to find my identity through real estate. And also Andrea helped me a lot with like, you are very valuable. You're very smart and you're doing this and that. And then, I think it was just kind of like discoveries. I'm like, oh my gosh, like real estate is amazing. Oh, financial, literacy and all these things that I never learned before, really, right? But both of my parents were teachers, and having to like for the first years until I had a portfolio, it was so difficult to tell my mom that I was doing this, and she didn't understand. She's like, why are you working in this thing? You should go study and get a job, whatever. And then even though she didn't say that later on, she's like, you know, this girl, she graduated from this college and she became a doctor, and she did, you know, she became a lawyer, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, what? So what? You know, like, but you kind of develop this strong heart growing and that kind of hustle kind of. And then, you know, I think, you know, it's like a good thing and a bad thing at the same time for a lot of ladies in the community, really.
Yeah. And that's something that I would love for us to touch on, maybe like in an International Women's Day episode, is like our relationship with our moms, like our Asian relationship with our moms and the messages that we grew up with. I feel there's like so much to unpack there, like especially if all four of us go to therapy. It's like, oh, who do I talk about all the time? But it's interesting, right? Because I feel like as Asian women, we're taught to like lift other people up and say less about ourselves. And it's so interesting that all four of us are like, oh, we never grew up with this sense of self-worth and confidence because we've just been like criticized, like picked apart for like our weight or how we look or how smart, how well we're doing in school growing up. That like, you know, when and this is something that beautiful that I found in partnering with Anita is that, you know, I would never say unkind things about Anita, but I would say unkind things about myself. And it's like vice versa, right? So when you hear someone else say that, oh, you're really good at X, Y, and Z, it's like, oh, I respect your opinion. Why can't I think that of myself? And that's a big like growth thing that you only learn relationally and having these conversations and partnering with people who, you know, understand where we're all coming from, right? And I know Gina has to jump off in like 2 minutes, but Anita, how are you feeling about time? Do you think like Susan or wait, oh, Gina, you could stay now?
Yeah, I got pushed.
Okay, cool. So we can go on about this forever because I love this so much.
We have not asked any of the questions right now. By the way,
all right. Anita, let's jump into the more serious questions. But I can stay on this forever. Like this could be its own episode.
I love it, and I love that we have just like it's free flowing because there's so much here, and I think the whole point of this conversation is just to like sit down and unpack and, you know, sort of just talk about like our experiences. And I totally hear that.
Hey, we're gonna take a little break, but in the meantime, here's a shameless plug for one of our amazing sponsors. Dr. Hua Win and her husband, Dr. Jaime Gonzalez, both optometrists by trade and owners of multiple multi-million-dollar optometry practices in the Dallas area, founded Black Steel Investment Group with a passion to invest to impact. With the foundation forged on 3 pillars, integrity, community, and legacy, they put their investors at the forefront of everything they do. The couple are both seasoned, full-time multifamily investors, syndicators, and asset managers who, together with their investors, have invested in over 6,900 units as general and or limited partners in Texas, Arizona, Florida, and the Carolinas, with total assets valued at over $480 million. Juan and Jaime are always working to find new investment opportunities for their investors. The couple enjoys traveling the world for delicious food and interesting cultures with their 8-year-old daughter Athena and have a puppy named Coco Ali. Now on to the show.
So I guess we'll ask one question. So in your vigil, I mean, do you think being like a woman of color has been an advantage? I know that you talked about earlier, like flocking to each other when you just like find someone that looks like you. You think that's an advantage or disadvantage? And how has it personally helped you in your investments?
Yeah, so I used to think it was a disadvantage. You know, I have gone to conferences and events where like literally, it's just like a room full of like old white people. And I used to feel so out of place and so uncomfortable and feel like I don't know what to talk about. What's our common ground? How are we going to engage in a conversation? Are they going to perceive me as someone that can bring value to their team? Am I going to be someone that is, you know, able to show my talents and my abilities? And it was like that to the point where my narrative, it wasn't even a question anymore. It wasn't even like, you know, how can I do this? it was like, oh, they're not going to see it. And so, I started getting very insecure about it. And I mean, I still do, but, I like my friend, right? She really kind of gave me like a mindset change, because she was like, that just means that you stand out even more. That just means they're going to remember you that much easier or easier. And then they're like, hey, you can do something different. You can bring a different perspective. You can help just to change the dynamic of their team if they so choose to, right? Like, and in just ways that they never thought was possible to bring value. Like, for example, there's like a statistic in the apartment industry where in like the millennial woman, or wait, hold on, how am I saying this? Okay, so like in the millennial group, women are actually one of the highest, like the fastest income earning group. Like they're increasing their income exponentially, I guess, compared to like their male counterparts. So I think women are actually making, in that group, right? Anyway, women are actually making the same amount of money as men are. And it's like rapidly increasing. And so to mirror that, one of the largest subsets of renters in the apartment space is actually young women, young, high earning income, like working professional women. And so at some point, right, it's like, okay, well, do we start changing how we're even positioning these apartments, right? Do we need to make it more women friendly, basically, right? Do we need to focus more and make it standard to always beef up security, or do we need to start providing amenities that are going to attract these high earning women? Like I was reading this really cool article where basically one of the top amenities, like the top luxury amenities that are being requested, is actually Pilates. So there are apartments that actually have Pilates rooms, and they provide classes, like workout classes, and things like that, right? So it's just like, someone was telling me, well, you can bring that mindset and those, like, that background and things like that, and that's a way to provide value in a changing market where things are just constantly changing. So I mean, that was just kind of like really cool, where I realized like, oh, that's weird, something that I thought was like a huge disadvantage actually could be a big strength. And then, to your point, right, like we can, we flock together, and then because of that, we form a very special bond. We form a very special community and a very special way of supporting each other as well, like really getting into the nitty gritty and like really like, how do we really uplift each other and do better for each person involved in the group? And so that, I think, is just, it's been amazing.
Yeah, and just having a seat at the table with that specific Asian mindset, right? You said something really interesting about like beefing up security when you have like women top of mind, right? Because Anita and I have spoken this in the past about like, men getting into the investment space, and they can think about house hacking, and safety is never like a thing that comes up, right? Like a woman will never like buy a house and then just like be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna live in this unit and then like rent out the other ones without like considering like, oh yeah, I'm living there. I also have to consider my safety. It's not just the numbers at the end of the day, right? And so I always saw that as like almost like an invisible barrier of women like being like kind of timid of like, I don't really feel comfortable house hacking, even though that's like most of people's like first step into real estate investing and having and carrying, building equity in that way. Most women be like kind of shy away from that because they're like, at the end of the day, they're like, I don't want to get murdered. And like statistically, women are like, victims of violence, especially like Asian women. We've seen these statistics. Like it's really scary. So I think, it's smart that we're having that conversation and drawing attention to it, because like we've been saying, like we're the minority in a group, and I can speak, for myself. When I like started in the corporate world, I kind of like wanted to hide being Asian for so long. And even growing up, my parents encouraged me to be more westernized, to fit in and follow this blueprint, because they're like, when they immigrated, they felt very self-conscious about their English and like having an accent speaking, and they didn't want me to go through that. And so in my head, I kind of like internalized this like internalized racism. an internalized misogyny almost too, of like, you know what, I have to like reel back the Asianness and lean into like being more white. So I became like this weird whitewash person that like, and this was like an awakening for me too, where I was like, okay, I'm leaning into this thing because my parents told me it would be safer to do that here and I would get ahead more because I fit in and they don't see me as this other person. But then that's a double-edged sword, right? Because now, you know, I'm not really being true and authentic to myself. In a way, I'm betraying myself and I didn't realize that, you know, that impacts the community as a whole. So it's a cool little like reframing, recoding in my 30s that it's like, it's exciting because now I get to show up authentically as myself and I don't have this weird anxiety about it that I didn't understand where it was coming from. So yeah, like a deep sadness that's now going away. It's great.
Yeah, it's very interesting you guys say that, because I've been actually trying to understand the you know, I guess my friends and other people who grew up here having to kind of like wash off their heritage, their whatever identity that they see from their family to survive really in the society. And what happened to me was I came in high school. So when I came, I went to Wissahickon High School in Bluebell, PA, and a lot of ladies, like Korean American ladies, right? They just had this, I don't know, like they were nice, but they had some type of hostility. Like they just had something against me, right? But it doesn't seem like it's against me. It's just that, you know, there was something that I couldn't understand, right? And I just had a feeling that, you know, I don't know what's going on right now, but I know my identity. I am Korean living in America. That's how I used to think. And I think it just kind of like when you know, transitioned into like my college years and the real estate career or whatever. And as it's previously disclaimed, I'm a little crazy, right? So when I feel that uncomfortable, let's say you walk into like all white people room, and maybe you feel uncomfortable for whatever reason. It could be white people, it could be a bunch of people, whatever, that I don't know, right? You will feel uncomfortable. And I get this feeling when I break that uncomfortable feeling, like uncomfortable barrier. So like when I never thought it was like a, you know, white, black kind of thing, you know, it was more like, as a person, if I feel uncomfortable for whatever, I'm just going to break that, right? So that's been really helping me to make me feel like I'm included and I'm no different than you up here. So when I start to realize about, okay, this is like white dominated industry or white male dominated, I didn't even realize until later when that narratives were coming to me. So, and then that's the point I start to remember, like, oh, maybe that's why on that day I couldn't speak to many people, or, you know, things like that just kind of came back to me. But I feel like, you know, this is just personal opinion, is that I try to ignore all the disadvantages if there is any. And I feel like it's actually an advantage that we as Asian women with feminine power, right? Feminine energy, we carry such a very unique heritage, the identity or cultural background. We have like our own thing that maybe some others don't. Maybe they lost it, you know, for whatever reason, right? They maybe have been living in America for generations after generations. They identify themselves as American, which is great. But I think that me being Korean, moved here 16, or Gina being Korean, moved here when she was younger, that, you know, understanding the identity makes you American. Like, you know, it makes you more American, right? Like, I think that's what the American is for. And I'm, you know, legally, I'm not American. I'm Korean. I'm going to keep it that way until they allow me to get the dual citizenship. But like, you know, I feel that it's been an advantage for me because when I talk to people, I like to talk to them personal level, right? I want to connect with them. And when I'm connecting with them, I can share my story. And of course, there are some times that, you know, this person has no common ground with me, you know, like there's nothing that we can really connect together. So we would, you know, connect, you know, like, what does your parents do on this day? Like, we have Lunar New Year, we do this and that, and they get fascinated. So, you know, that kind of like small things, I think it comes to an advantage. Maybe there are disadvantages there. I mean, there should be, I think, but it's just that I think I've been trying to just ignore that fact because you know, I'm crazy. Like, I'm the shit. Like, what are you gonna say about me?
Okay. She just comes busting through the door. She's just like, it's mine. I love it.
Kool-Aid man.
Yeah. I think like to me, I don't want to say it's like I do the work. Like I work with whoever, you know, like it just to me is that like I'm an introvert. It takes energy to kind of every person that I talk to expends energy. And I mean, just a reminder, a lot of these like real estate conferences or wherever you are, it's typically in like middle America. It's like in, you know, it's in places that is rarely like where, you know, it's rarely like it in San Francisco. It's mostly in like, you know, Florida or Texas and things like that. And so, like the people that you're dealing with are just like an extra step of like they're not you know, like they don't share, they just don't have an extra step of not sharing a commonality with you. And it's just like you just have to kind of add that extra energy. And then so like when I see someone that looks like me, I know that there's already like potentially a step back. Like I can just like relax a little and then just get into the nitty gritty. Like I don't really like sometimes I just don't really I feel like yeah, there's some small talk, but it's just like we can get deeper so much faster. And then you just gravitate to people that kind of share that same background. And it's like I'm not trying to be biased. It's just sort of like it's just kind of how it is. And it's, you know, I have to mix it, right? It's like I need to I gotta expend on my energy on the people on those people, but I sometimes only have so much left after like sitting 8 hours of real estate conference network and like doing this on like 3 to 4 days at a time. It's like I have to sort of just chill and be myself. And I think that's just sort of that's my experience of kind of doing something like that. Anyway, I don't want to like we already are we can talk forever probably. We had 6 questions prepared. We only got to 2. So
it was so good though. I love it.
I know. Like, I feel like we all like it was too fun as like a double date to like just naturally talk about the things that have been bothering us this whole time. So I'm sure we're gonna have to have amazing ladies back because yeah, I know it. I feel it. I will probably have you back. So I wanted to do a really quick plug though. Gina, how can people find you if they're gonna look for you? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can go to my website. It's shinequitypartners.com. And you can reach out to me there. You can also send me an email. It is gina@shinequitypartners.com. You can also reach me on Instagram. The handle is investwithgina. And recently I've been much more active on LinkedIn as well. In case you are a LinkedIn user, you can search me also. Name is just Gina Linette Shin. So can probably reach me between any of those channels. And so I'm here. Let's connect. Let's talk.
About yourself, Susan.
So I don't have as much public presence really because, you know, I didn't really need to like promote my business or anything, but I guess I can be reached on LinkedIn. So it's LinkedIn / you know, Susan-No NOH with Spaciouz. I do have Facebook that I'm very active at, but if I don't know you, you know.
Susan has these amazing groups. Can you tell them a bit about like the groups that you have going on and the meetup that you have? And you know, if you are on Facebook, you have to join one of these if Susan will let you. I'm not really sure.
Susan's gatekeeping.
Because I'm trying to create a Facebook group where we can really have an intimate relationship of networking, right? Like, you know, it started when I came back to Philly from a long traveling. I was like, you know what? I just need to meet people right now. Like I have to express this energy. So I was like, okay, impromptu meeting here on like in a week. And then like, you know, I think 12 people showed up or something and we had a great time. And I'm like, you know what? I want to really create this community of people where they're just sharing everything. For example, like if I needed an architect doing specific thing, or like, you know, structural engineer to do this, you know, people will not mind sharing that information with them. Or like, how did you finish your 90 days project with Gantt chart, right? Then, you know, they will tell you, okay, this is how you do it. You can go to this website and da da da. So more like very deep level conversation, rather than just like, oh yeah, you can, you know, call 10 different structural engineers and you'll find a good person, you know? So I think that, you know, I will be more active, and then, you know, I haven't really landed with a name, but maybe it's just network and talk about real estate business with Susan, no. And then, you know, we've been trying to, I think I'm going to be holding different webinars on Zoom with, you know, inviting people who are in different industries of their expertise, because it not necessarily that it have to be in real estate field. They could be in any field, but if they have like, you know, coins to drop, right? They have their knowledge that can be used in your company, whatever. And then I would like to, you know, invite them over and talk about it. And, you know, being a member in Chamber, Korean American Chamber here, I'm really excited about talking about businesses. And, you know, it really relates to real estate too. If you buy a commercial retail storefronts and it's empty, right? What are you going to do with it? Do you have any idea of like what kind of business will thrive in this type of intersection or whatnot, or this area? So it's in the works. So if you want to connect with me, connect me on LinkedIn and then talk to me, and I will, you know, I'll connect with you.
I just want to add, you know what would be a good name for it? Is Susan Knows. KNOWS.
Damn.
Boom. And that's the show.
You gotta get Tiffany to do your marketing, because that is pretty good. That's
I
pretty
love
good.
that.
Susan
Okay.
Knows.
Susan
All right. Thank you so much. So glad to have you guys back on, and I'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Have a good
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening. Here's one last note from our lovely sponsors.
Hey, SARE ladies, listeners, Tony the CPA dude here, also your resident SARE tax bro. And with your lovely host, they came up with some great ideas. So Miss Tiffany and Miss Anita here came up with the tax workout plan. So we're gonna help you get cut up on your taxes, also gonna help you cut up on your own body. So just like working out, taxes is a monthly thing. You can't ignore it, otherwise you're gonna fall off the cliff. So with the code SARE ladies, we're gonna give you a nice healthy discount, and we're also gonna give the SARE ladies a kickback just to help support their podcast. I've had a fun time being on their podcast a couple times this year. They've done great. I really wanna see them blow up in 2023. So with your support with this creative tax workout plan, and also a workout plan in general, we're gonna help you transform your life in 2023. So mention the code SARE ladies when you talk to me. You can email me at Tony@thecpadude, text me at 928CPA-dude, TikTok's the CPA Dude, website's thecpadude.com, everything's the CPA Dude. So SARE ladies is your special code here, and let's make this year great.
Thank you for tuning in to the SARE Ladies podcast, hosted by Anita Wong and Tiffany Lee. Special thanks to Subtle Asian Real Estate, LLC, our parent company.
If you enjoyed our show, please leave us a review or follow SARE Ladies on Spotify and Instagram @Subtle Real Estate. You can also click on our show notes to subscribe to our newsletters to stay on top of our news and upcoming events. Until next time, Pod Squatters.